Mark Carney has been wrong about everything. He likes to talk about his experience. His experience is being wrong. He was wrong about the carbon tax. He was wrong about pipelines. He was wrong to advise Trudeau for money printing inflation over the last 5 years.
His decision to not proceed or at least delay the counter tariffs, given President Trump's pause, and how you would interact with Mr. Trump, given how unpredictable he can be.
We need to keep the counter tariffs in place until the president removes all tariffs forever for Canadians. We can't have half measures. We have to send a clear message to President Trump that if he wants to fight, then we will fight back. We will defend our people and our country. They want us to give them a fourth term. After 3 terms in office and 10 years of making Canada weak, the Carney-Trudeau Liberals want us to give them a 4th kick at the can. Sorry, 3 strikes and you are out. Allow me to address the unjustified tariffs that the president has now partially backed down from. My message to the president is this: knock it off. Stop the chaos. You are hurting your workers, your consumers, and most immediately destroying trillions of dollars of wealth on your own stock market. You're attacking a cherished friend of the United States, and you are strengthening America's enemies by going after America's friends. Stop tariffing our country and stop the monthly melodrama that is hurting our economies on both sides of the border. If you want American workers to have bigger paychecks and lower prices, then let's do more trade, not less. But if you choose otherwise, we will retaliate, we will fight back, and we will defend ourselves, because we will always put Canada first. Putting Canada first means that we can't rely on President Trump or the Americans anymore. We can't live with these dramas every 30 days. We need to take back control of our economy and bring home our jobs, business, and economic sovereignty. And what have the Liberals done to achieve that since President Trump first threatened the tariffs on November 26th of last year? It's been 100 days. They have not repealed the No Pipelines Law, C-69, that effectively forces us to sell all our energy to the Americans. They have not approved a single new LNG plant, mine, or pipeline. They have not removed any of the tax increases that have driven $500 billion of our investment south of the border. They have not passed a single law to make us more self-reliant. Why? Because they closed Parliament. Liberals put themselves first instead of putting Canada first. What I got into politics for was to bring home the Canadian promise. You know, we are all aware of the famous American dream. We have something better in Canada. It's the Canadian promise that anyone from anywhere can achieve anything, that hard work gets you a great life and a beautiful home on a safe street, protected by solid borders and brave troops under a proud flag. That promise has been broken after 9 years of the Carney-Trudeau Liberals, who've doubled housing costs, doubled the national debt, doubled food bank lineups, and doubled gun crime. We're going to bring home that promise. We're going to bring home that promise by repealing C-69 to grant permission for pipelines, mines, LNG plants that will get our products to other non-American overseas markets, by passing a bold, beautiful, patriotic, bring-it-home tax cut on work, investment, energy, home building, and making stuff in Canada. We'll knock down interprovincial trade barriers, and we'll unleash the production of our resources here in Canada for our benefit. Speaking of benefit, you have to ask yourself, for whose benefit is the Prime Minister of Canada, any Prime Minister of Canada, actually working? Who does the Prime Minister work for? You pay his salary, he spends your money. He controls your borders, criminal laws, and military. He negotiates trade agreements with foreign countries that can help or hurt your family. He makes life or death decisions. Now, what if he has millions of dollars of financial interests that are opposite your interests? What if he's profiting off insider knowledge and power at your expense? What if his interests lie with foreign hostile governments that can undermine our country? Then he is not working for you, he's working against you. That's why we have a law in Canada that requires politicians disclose all their assets and sell off any that put them in a conflict. You might be familiar with this law. It's called the Conflict of Interest and Ethics Law, because Justin Trudeau has been convicted twice of breaking that law. That's why we call Justin Trudeau a man of conviction. He keeps getting convicted. Mark Carney has found a sneaky loophole, one that could allow him to gain power while hiding and holding millions of dollars in interests that go against you and your country. Here's how. Conflict of interest rules do not apply to leadership candidates. Mr. Carney could win the Liberal leadership and become Prime Minister without revealing to Canadians his massive multi-million-dollar foreign holdings. And he isn't even required at the point of becoming Prime Minister to reveal these holdings. He has 60 days to share the information with the Ethics Commissioner, and then another 60 days, for a total of 120, before some of that information goes public. Worse, he can simply put the existing holdings in what is called a blind trust, while his trustee keeps him invested in all of the same things. So he could go on and govern for years, quietly and subtly knowing what investments he has and making decisions that profit himself at the expense of the Canadian people. And how could he possibly negotiate with President Trump? You can be sure of one thing. President Trump believes in using leverage against his counterparty. He said so in his book. And his officials will come in with a briefing note. And that note will say, here are all Mark Carney's millions of dollars of financial holdings in the United States. And the president would then be able to use his massive regulatory, taxation, government buying, and other powers to manipulate Mark Carney against our country. You can be sure that President Trump will leverage all of Mark Carney's financial interests against Canada. And then Canadians would lose out again, just like they lost out when Carney sold out Canada and sent jobs to New York a few months ago. Simply put, our leaders must put Canada first. They must work for you. And that is what I will do. We will restore the Canadian promise so that your hard work guarantees you a great life in a beautiful house on a safe street, protected by solid borders and brave troops under a proud flag in Canada. Let's bring it home.
To the federal government's decision to not proceed or at least delay the counter tariffs, given President Trump's pause, and how you would interact with Mr. Trump, given how unpredictable he can be.
We need to keep the counter tariffs in place until the president removes all tariffs forever for Canadians. We can't have half measures. We have to send a clear message to President Trump that if he wants a fight, then we will fight back. We will defend our people and our country. So the president must remove all tariffs on Canadians before we remove counter tariffs on the Americans. My message to President Trump is you've got two options. One, you can attack our economy and we will fight back. Your consumers will pay more, your workers will make less. Both our economies will weaken, leaving less money for border security and defense on both sides of the border, and our enemies will grow stronger. Or you can knock it off and get back to the best trading relationship the world has ever seen, so that both our workers make more, our consumers pay less, our economies have more money for national defense and border security. We can stand up to our real enemies on the other side of the oceans and America and Canada as two separate countries will be stronger, safer, and better off. But if he doesn't want to deal with Canada anymore, if he wants to attack our economy, then we must be prepared to be strong, sovereign, and stand on our own 2 feet. And that means repealing C-69, the No New Pipelines law, rapidly approving LNG plants, pipelines, mines, and other projects. It means passing a big, bold, beautiful, bring-it-home tax cut on work, investment, energy, and home building. I call it bring it home because it's going to bring home that $500 billion the Liberals pushed south, and it will mean you bring home more of your paycheck. That is how we're going to take back control of our lives and bring home our business, jobs, and money.
The House of Commons has been shut down by the behest of the Liberal Party. Do we even have a sense at this point what kind of negotiations are even being made in Washington? How hard we are negotiating to stop these tariffs?
I don't think we do. I mean, what we know is that since President Trump first threatened these tariffs almost exactly 100 days ago, the Liberals have done precisely nothing to make us more self-reliant. They continue to make us weak. We have the anti-pipeline law, C-69, still in place, the carbon tax still in place, the threat of a capital gains tax increase on our investors still in place. Not one tax has been cut, not one regulation has been removed, not one step has been taken to give permission to our incredible businesses and workers to build things in this country. And so we are in a position of weakness, not only after 100 days of the Carney-Trudeau Liberals, but after 10 years of the Carney-Trudeau Liberals. And now they want us to give them a fourth term. After 3 terms in office and 10 years of making Canada weak, the Carney-Trudeau Liberals want us to give them a fourth kick at the can. Sorry, 3 strikes and you are out. Please, I'll do it quickly in English and then we'll go to the next question. Thank you for your question. I think you might have heard I opened my remarks addressing the unjustified threats of President Trump. But within 4 days, we will have a new Prime Minister who will be negotiating with President Trump. And that incoming Prime Minister refuses to tell Canadians where his millions of dollars are invested and therefore where his real interests lie. Imagine Donald Trump leveraging Mark Carney's multi-million-dollar investments in the United States against Canada's interests. How is it possible for Mark Carney to stand up for Canadian jobs when he's already moved jobs from our country to New York? I should also add that Liberals want to use this crisis to make you forget. To make you forget they've been in power for 10 years and 3 terms, that they are seeking a 4th term in office. And they want you to forget that they are the ones that doubled housing costs, doubled food bank lineups, doubled our national debt, drove $500 billion from Canada to the US, and made us weak in the face of our American counterparts. What we need is a Prime Minister who will bring home our jobs and money and put Canada first, and that is what I will do.
Since the leadership kingpin started, Carney has been critical of Trudeau. He has been saying that he will scrap the carbon tax and even get the pipelines done. This is not that different from what you have been proposing. So are you concerned that Canadians will turn away from your party if given the chance to support the Liberal Party that has moved closer to your views in some of these issues?
Well, first of all, you have to ask if you can believe anything he says. Mr. Carney not only advised Justin Trudeau, he was his economic advisor for 5 years, during which time Trudeau killed pipelines and raised carbon taxes. Mr. Carney publicly testified against pipeline construction at the Industry Committee. The other day, he put out a policy paper on getting things built that doesn't mention pipelines once. He said he's for pipelines when he was in British Columbia speaking English, and then he said he would let provinces veto them when he went to Quebec and was speaking French. On the carbon tax, He's on the record saying that not only he favors the carbon tax, but he thinks it should be higher. And what he's going to do is something very sneaky. This is going to be fun to watch. He's going to temporarily hide the carbon tax for the election. So the gas prices will drop for 35 days. And then if, God forbid, he wins, he will bring back a much bigger carbon tax with no rebate. He's already said that this tax would apply on things like steel. Well, use steel for everything. I wouldn't be surprised if this room could not stand up without steel supporting beams. Your vehicles that you got here for are steel. There's steel everywhere. Mark Carney has been wrong about everything. He likes to talk about his experience. His experience is being wrong. He was wrong about the carbon tax. He was wrong about pipelines. He was wrong to advise Trudeau for money printing inflation over the last 5 years. He's been wrong in the past, and he's wrong for our future.